What happens when a television titan finally hits his limit? More than 10 years, Cowell and David Walliams dominated primetime as an unstoppable force. Yet beneath the applause and standing ovations, a simmering feud brewed, one riddled with betrayal, pride, and a scandal nobody anticipated. Now, the truth has come to light as Cowell completely loses control after David Walliams lashes out at him. Partnership was golden once. From 2012 to 2022, Britain's Got Talent wasn't just a show, it was a cultural event, with Cowell and David Walliams at its very heart, crafting television magic that seemed unbreakable. Simon was the sharp-eyed mastermind, building a television empire on ruthless critiques, while David was the unpredictable wild card, quick-witted, mischievous, and always ready with a biting comment that kept contestants and viewers alike on edge. Together, they were the electric pulse of the show. Audiences marveled at the talent on stage. They were equally hooked on the tension and banter between these two. Their dynamic became the real attraction, the compelling push and pull that made every episode must-watch TV. Simon's cold, commanding presence perfectly offset David's warmth and humor, drawing millions who tuned in not just for the performances, but to witness the unfolding drama. Yet, this dazzling on-screen chemistry masked a far more complicated reality. What seemed like perfect harmony was, in fact, a fragile act. Each judge played a part in a carefully choreographed dance, but cracks began to show beneath the glittering surface. Tension between Simon's ironclad control and David's flair for the unexpected slowly deepened. First, their differences balanced out. Simon brought his powerhouse status as a global TV mogul, and David injected a fresh, chaotic energy that fans loved. But as the years passed, the fissures widened. Audiences didn't see what went on behind the cameras, but backstage, what started as a partnership of equals quietly morphed into a struggle for control. Cowell viewed Britain's Got Talent as his crown jewel, the centerpiece of his television legacy. Every decision, from which acts made it through to the judges' banter, bore his unmistakable stamp. There was no room for second guessing. This was his empire, and he ruled it with precision. David Walliams, on the other hand, saw the show as one chapter in his eclectic career. A comedian, actor, writer, and now judge. While Simon was building a kingdom, David was charting his own path. His humor and wit were his signature, but his heart wasn't fully committed to Simon's vision. Always hungry for new challenges, David never saw Britain's Got Talent as his final stage. This fundamental difference planted the seeds of tension. Simon demanded loyalty and full immersion. It offered neither. He wasn't a cog in Simon's machine, but an individual determined to shine on his own terms. Subtle signs of strain grew. A sideways glance, a muted dismissal in meetings, until a silent Cold War brewed beneath the surface. Simon, this show was a legacy to protect. For David, it was just another project, something to keep him occupied until the next big opportunity came along. It had once been a thrilling collaboration, slowly turned into a battleground of clashing egos. Season after season, the pressure mounted. A program that was once a vibrant celebration of talent began to feel like a stage for something far more complicated. A test of wills between two strong personalities. Their partnership, once electrifying, had become a fragile balancing act. Would they find a way to coexist? Or was the end of the golden duo inevitable? Time could reveal the answer. Everything reached a breaking point during the infamous hot mic incident in January 2020 at the London Palladium. What should have been a glamorous day of filming, filled with laughter and sharp remarks, turned into a moment that changed everything for David Walliams. The set was alive with excitement, the judges basking in the glow of their star power. Yet in a rare quiet moment, away from the cameras, something unexpected was captured. Microphones, ever vigilant, were still live, picking up every whispered word, every private frustration. David Walliams unleashed a torrent of harsh, crude comments about the contestants, marks far removed from the polished persona he showed on screen. His words were crude and disrespectful, kind of venting that was never meant to be heard beyond the crew. But in today's digital world, privacy is fragile, and those words were recorded, stored, and eventually leaked. For 2 years, the recording lay hidden, buried in the depths of production archives. No one suspected that the private moment would explode into a public scandal. When the audio finally surfaced, the fallout was immediate and brutal. Headlines screamed with outrage, and the public backlash hit hard. Fans and critics alike dissected every phrase, condemning Williams for what they saw as unprofessional and offensive behavior. Once beloved judge suddenly found himself fighting to protect a reputation built over years of charm and wit. Williams was quick to respond, issuing a formal apology and launching a public relations campaign to mend the damage. Yet beneath the surface, a more complex story was unfolding. The real scandal wasn't just the remarks themselves, but how they had been leaked. The trust within the production team fractured, alliances shifted, and the delicate balance between Cowell and Walliams shattered. Simon Cowell's reaction was explosive. The man who had controlled every facet of the show now faced a public crisis that tested his authority like never before. When Williams's outburst went public, Simon's composure cracked. The tension that had been simmering beneath the surface erupted, marking the beginning of the end for the partnership that had once defined Britain's Got Talent. What started as a glittering collaboration was now a story of conflict, secrecy, and a fall from grace. The world watched as the golden duo's facade cracked, leaving everyone wondering, what comes next when two giants collide? What unfolded next was more than a headline. It was a turning point no one saw coming. The private sanctum of a TV show's backstage world had been cracked open, and the damage ran deeper than anyone could predict. What was supposed to remain an off-the-record moment between trusted colleagues had been exposed like raw nerve. The leak didn't just bruise reputations, it severed them. Someone, hidden among the crew, had chosen to air what should have remained behind closed doors. It was an ambush in disguise, one that didn't just target a single man, but called into question the entire machine of Britain's Got Talent. And for David Walliams, the fallout was swift and merciless. The charm that had once made him a national treasure was suddenly under scrutiny. The laughter that once echoed across living rooms now had an uncomfortable undertone. Fans who had stood by him through highs and lows were now pausing, unsure. This industry, reputation, is a fragile currency, and his was quickly slipping through his fingers. Then came the moment that sent shudders across the entertainment world. A lawsuit, sharp, deliberate, and very public. Walliams took Fremantle Media to court, the powerhouse behind Britain's Got Talent. It wasn't about headlines. It wasn't even about money. It was about restoring what had been stolen: trust. The private conversations, recorded without consent, had transformed into front-page drama, and that was an injury no apology could stitch up. Behind the glitz and camera flashes, the industry held its breath. If what was said in confidence could no longer be protected, then where did that leave everyone else? Walliams' lawsuit wasn't just a personal battle. It was a warning shot across the bow of the entire production world. And Fremantle, once seen as a fortress of professionalism, was scrambling. They issued a formal apology, but by then, the damage had long seeped into the cracks. As weeks turned into months, the lawsuit dragged forward in silence. Whispers replaced statements. The resolution, when it finally came in late 2023, was sealed under heavy confidentiality. No one knew what was agreed behind closed doors, but the public had already decided. Fremantle had failed to protect its own. They had broken an unspoken promise. Yet, for all the legal closure, the emotional cost remained unspoken. Something deeper had fractured. David Walliams' long-standing camaraderie with Simon Cowell, the very backbone of BGT's on-screen chemistry, had quietly crumbled. Their bond, once magnetic and full of spontaneous humor, was now reduced to echoes of what used to be. The silence between them wasn't filled with arguments. It was heavier than that. It was the kind of silence that marks the end of something that once mattered. The show that had once symbolized unity and shared vision was now marred by tension. Fans noticed. Viewers speculated. But no one needed to say it aloud. The electricity between Walliams and Cowell, once unmistakable, had faded. In its place stood distance, quiet, cold, and final. April 1st, 2025 changed everything. The moment David Walliams stepped onto the Advertising Week Europe stage, it wasn't just another speaking event. There was something different in the air. He stood tall, poised, and playful, his well-worn wit, There was a sharper edge, honed by months of bruised reputation. When the moderator lauded his achievements on BGT, Walliams didn't flinch. He smirked. Then came the punchline cloaked in sarcasm. "I've won Best Judge 4 times. Simon, well, never." After that followed wasn't relief. It was confusion. Was this a joke? Or was it something else? The crowd chuckled, but eyes darted around, waiting for the tension to break. It didn't. For years, Cowell had been the titan of tough love. Walliams, the unpredictable charmer. In that moment, the playful duality cracked. Suddenly it was clear, this wasn't rivalry anymore. It was war, waged quietly but mercilessly. The applause faded. The awkwardness lingered. And soon, the aftermath followed like a storm front. Media outlets dissected the comment from every angle. Insiders began whispering the inevitable truth. Cowell and Walliams weren't just drifting apart. They were done. Was once a golden pairing had turned into an unbridgeable divide. No more shared interviews. No red carpet moments. No photos of backstage banter. What remained was a void, carefully curated by silence. Attempts at reconciliation were reportedly made, but each time the door stayed shut. Cowell, once eager to mend fences, now kept his distance, and Walliams, wounded and weary, disappeared further into his own orbit. Every joint appearance was meticulously avoided. It was no longer coincidental. It was strategy. Production crew members on BGT began using the same phrase like gospel. It's over. No firestorms, no grand announcements. Just the quiet, unrelenting finality of a partnership that had run its course. The screen chemistry that had defined a generation of British TV was now only visible in reruns. No feud starts out meaning to end things. Sometimes, the weight of betrayal, the sting of a comment, or the silence after trust is broken, those things quietly rewrite the story. Now, David Walliams and Simon Cowell, once the heart of Britain's Got Talent, had written their final chapter, not with fanfare, but with distance. And that, perhaps, is the saddest ending of all. Silence after the storm was deafening. In one unscripted moment during that Advertising Week Europe panel, David Walliams pierced through Simon Cowell's legacy like a sharpened arrow aimed straight at the core of his empire. It wasn't just a cheeky quip. It was a public unmasking. For decades, Cowell had been the unshakable architect behind some of television's most iconic talent shows. Walliams' subtle strike, pointing out Cowell's never having won the National TV Award for Best Judge, wasn't just about trophies. It was a scalpel, cutting through Cowell's meticulously curated mythos. Behind that grin and tight-lipped smirk was a man battling something much larger, a fading grip of cultural dominance. And just like that, the power shifted. The remark wasn't flashy, but it triggered a ripple effect. Sponsors began calling less, meetings grew colder, and long-term allies started tiptoeing around difficult conversations. Could it be that the man once seen as the oracle of entertainment had lost his touch? That question buzzed in the very boardrooms where Cowell used to command deals with a mere nod. Someone who built his world on being decisive and unchallengeable. The slow unraveling of trust felt like 1,000 paper cuts. Quiet, precise, deadly. Behind the velvet curtains of Britain's Got Talent, the tension reached its boiling point. Cameras weren't rolling. There was no studio audience, just Cowell, surrounded by his inner circle. Producers, confidants, business partners, all looking to him for clarity. But instead of leadership, they witnessed collapse. Cowell's voice, usually cool and exacting, cracked with exhaustion. He didn't raise it. He didn't shout, but his words dropped like anvil. "We are done." That wasn't a tantrum. It wasn't fury. It was a resignation. Man conceding defeat, not to another person, but to time, to change, to a game that had begun to outgrow him. The mogul persona cracked. The empire? Still intact, technically, but its soul had taken a hit. The drama didn't end behind closed doors. It ran wild. Headlines erupted. Hands were split. Half shocked, half smug, all riveted. The Cowell-Walliams duo, once considered lightning in a bottle, had shattered beyond repair. And in their place, a vacuum opened. Who would rise next? Who could fill the void left by two of TV's most dynamic figures? Walliams didn't crumble. He adapted. No longer tied to BGT, he ventured into new creative waters: books, theater, content production. But the glimmer in his eye had changed. There was still charm, yes. It was mixed with something sharper now. Calculation, weariness, maybe even regret. The man who once made millions laugh with his flamboyant antics now carried the quiet weight of legacy and public fallout. He didn't speak of Cowell, but he didn't have to. Silence said it all. Cowell, meanwhile, tried to press on. The empire he'd built, from American Idol to X Factor to BGT, still bore his stamp. But the man behind the brand no longer glowed with unshakable confidence. He smiled for the cameras, but the weight behind his eyes was unmistakable. The press event felt like a reminder of what once was. There were no more playful jabs, no more easy camaraderie with Walliams, just red carpets, contracts, and the dull echo of past greatness. And through it all, one unspoken truth lingered. This wasn't just about a feud. It was about identity, about two men who for years were essential to each other's success, now forced to stand alone. Financially, Cowell's legacy remains a study in power and opulence. An estimated net worth hovering around $600 million, Simon Cowell built a fortune through television production, global syndication rights, music label ventures, and real estate. Car collection is enviable. A Bugatti Veyron, a Rolls-Royce Phantom, a Ferrari 458 Italia. Symbols of a man who didn't just earn wealth, but wore it unapologetically. His wrist, often adorned with a Cartier Santos or a Patek Philippe Nautilus. Cowell's properties include a $25 million Malibu mansion and a sprawling estate in London's upscale Holland Park. Add to that a Gulfstream G550 private jet and equity stakes in Psycho Entertainment. The picture becomes clear. Cowell isn't just rich. He's built an empire of assets, shielded by insurance policies, tailored to protect everything from his voice to his production contracts. His strategy? Diversify early, stay hands-on, and always control the rights. But here's the twist. While the empire is vast, the cracks have grown more visible. Rise from a failed record executive to a household name was one of grit and vision. Now, the same instincts that propelled him upward might be holding him back. Cowell once taught the world the power of being the judge, but perhaps the greatest lesson lies in what happened after. When being the judge was no longer enough, Walliams' departure was more than a change in cast. It was the last straw in a bond worn thin by years of tension, unspoken envy, and diverging ambition. Warmth, the laughter, the spontaneity. It had all faded long before the cameras stopped rolling. Now there's only distance. No joint appearances, no reconciliations, just two men who once built magic on stage, now orbiting separate worlds. The audience still debates the truth. Was it pride that ended them? Ego? Wounds too deep to heal? It was simpler. Maybe, like so many iconic partnerships, they were never meant to last forever. What's certain is this. The phrase, "we are done," wasn't just a line. It was a finale, one that echoed across studios, boardrooms, and living rooms alike. And there you have it, one of the most dramatic shakeups in the world of television. From simmering tensions to explosive truths, we watched the rise and reckoning of two powerhouse personalities who once ruled our screens like kings. David Walliams' sly remark may have seemed like just another panel quip, but it cracked the very foundation of Simon Cowell's empire. What followed? A cascade of consequences no one saw coming. Simon, the man who could make or break careers with a single glance, unravel not from fame, but from betrayal. His legacy, once sealed in gold, now walks a tightrope between resilience and reinvention. Meanwhile, Walliams stepped away from the wreckage with a new, weathered edge, forever altered by the feud that changed the face of Britain's Got Talent. If you've made it this far, you know this wasn't just about television. It was about ambition, ego, friendship, and the harsh price of staying at the top. Now we want to hear from you. Was this the final curtain call for Simon's reign? Or just an intermission in a bigger act? Smash that like button if this episode kept you on the edge of your seat. Drop a comment below with your hot take. Was this betrayal brewing for years? Or did one moment flip the switch? Don't forget to subscribe. Because trust us, we've got more juicy, behind-the-scenes drama, Hollywood scandals, and unexpected truths coming your way. Next up, we're diving into the untold story of a Hollywood star who vanished from the spotlight, only to reappear in the most jaw-dropping way. Until then, remember this: in the world of fame and fortune, even the biggest empires can crumble with a whisper, and sometimes all it takes is 4 little words. We are done.